The male typically is the dominant role. The female, it's not antithesis or it's not competing, it's a complementary role.
Yeah, that comment from Eric Erickson, the editor of RedState.com, prompted by a report that shows, Pew study, that 40% of all households with children under the age of 18 include mothers who are either the sole or the primary source of income for the family. The breadwinners are changing. Now, Fox News host Megyn Kelly, she was, let's say, amused by Mr. Erickson's comment, so she invited him and the host of the show that he appeared on, Lou Dobbs, onto her program to battle it out. The rest has become, well, take a look for yourself.
What makes you dominant and me submissive? And who died and made you scientist-in-chief?
Oh, it doesn't have anything to do with submissiveness per se, and it was certainly poorly constructed how I said it. What I meant by that was when you look throughout society, look at other animals, the male of the species tends to be the protector, the dominant one in that regard. And we've gotten to a point in this country where you have a lot of feminists who think that the male and female roles are completely interchangeable.
To ignore the fact that we have marriages breaking up, shattering in this society, and we know that that reduces by at least a...
Why are you attributing that to women in the workforce?
Excuse me, let me just finish what I'm saying, if I may, oh dominant one.
Do you know that in this country, in the 50s and 60s, there were huge numbers of people that believed that the children of interracial marriages were inferior, were biologically inferior? Tell that to Barack Obama.
Yeah, I actually found myself agreeing with Megyn Kelly. The world's colliding. Now, meanwhile, at a recent Washington Post forum on education, a comment from Mississippi Governor Phil Bryant, it got an audible gasp from the audience. The interviewer asked why America has become so mediocre. Governor Bryant, he jumped right in.
You want me to tell the truth? I think both parents started working. And a mom is in the workplace. It's not a bad thing. I'm going to get in trouble. I can just see, I can see the emails tomorrow. It's a great American story now that women are certainly in the workplace.
So it's the mother's place to teach them to read?
No. But I think there was that loving, nurturing opportunity that both parents had a little bit of time.
Yeah, you got some bad emails on that one, Governor. His office later issued a statement clarifying the comment, saying his point was that, quote, many families don't have a lot of time because they're balancing both parents being in the workplace. Funny, it didn't sound like that from the set. Anyway, the governor, his own wife, worked outside the home for more than 38 years, including while the two kids were in school. All right, oh, Jeannie. It is not just some throwaway line from the governor here, or so two numbskulls over at Fox News. These conversations keep coming up over and over again at the problems they see, real or imagined, with youth today, the performance on all the standardized tests and everything else. It's because mom is now in the workforce. She's not at home looking after the kids. When you hear that, what's your reaction?
Oh, it's so frustrating. And you know, you mentioned that this conversation goes on, and it goes on with women, working women as well. But the difference is that it is not the fault of working women that we have societal problems. And what you need to do is look for real solutions. So when the governor talks about, you know, blaming, and I know he stepped back from that a little bit, working women, what about thinking about policy solutions like extended maternity leave, or like, you know, extended school days, or, you know, some kinds of real policy changes that can help. You know, women are still making less than men. Increase their salaries so you don't need to have both parents working full time. There are real policies.
Let's face it, in today's day and age, you need, for the most part, two salaries to cover the nut.
And that's part of the problem. But, you know, it's interesting that there's these problems and they are real, but the problem is blamed on women in the workforce. And that is, I think, you know, makes it look like we're back, you know, 50, 100, 200 years ago. And that's a real problem.
You know, for me, and whenever, and I don't want to speak because Dominic's not here to sometimes we'll throw as an Andrew, well, do you have a daughter? What's Andrew going to do? But I say in this particular thing, almost more than any other issue, until you have a daughter, your perspective, not that I did a 180 on this, but the idea that one of my daughters isn't going to go to school, isn't going to do whatever she can to try and better, and then she's going to become a professional, and then, oh, time out. get back in the house here. The husband's going to do whatever he wants. You stay at home. No way, no how, at least from my perspective. We've raised and tried and promoted equality and the idea that all the fault lies with the mom. A
lot of the political stuff that we do, and you have Jessica Proud on here quite a bit. I've been in many situations when we're in a room trying to figure out what to do for something, and I think this, she thinks that, and she's 100% right. I'm wrong. I mean, there's a reason why women and men work well together and do things.
Because we're smarter and better.
Absolutely.
Go ahead,
I'm
never going to win that argument. I just know in that
and
situation.
Jessica's right. I love her.
I say that, often, but also a successful woman, or just a woman that works and manages the home with her husband, and the two of them work together on it.
Okay,
is a great role model.
But what
too.
I like here is, guys, we've talked about this in the political context. You heard from a governor, you heard some talking heads. This applies to what you were talking about, which is in the workplace and even in the financial arena. Now, one of the most accomplished investors that we've seen here in the last 20 some odd years, Paul Tudor Jones, he was asked in a panel, a related subject. Take a listen to what he had to say specifically about women and their male counterparts and the differences. And this is somebody who's got the power to hire, let alone pay what he thinks is right for these positions. Take a listen.
As soon as that baby's lips touch that girl's bosom, forget it.
What an idiot. Now, Andrew, he was talking obviously in reference to why aren't women at top ranks in terms of certain financial institutions. And he says, well, they can't basically do both. They can't manage both being a mom and then also being focused on trading. He got some very interesting comments for. But it's amazing in 2013 we're still having this conversation. Honestly, some conversations I get, they're cyclical, but this one, I thought this was asked and answered 10, 15 years ago.
We're still having the same conversation because women on average make what, 81 cents on the dollar for what a man makes?
There's different factors.
There are different factors,
studies.
But trying to explain those
There's
different
different
factors is part of the problem.
I will agree.
And when you have equivalent positions and women are paid less, it continues to be an issue. I agree with Jeannie that one of the solutions to some of the societal ills, it's not having mom at home, it's having somebody at home. And our society has made that almost impossible for a lot of people.
And
Smarter answer tonight.
And it's not, yes. No, and you know, it's part of the problem is that our society has still told women, and I know a lot of, and I'm sure your daughter and my sisters and Jessica has told women that they can do it all. Nobody can do it all. You need help and assistance, and there needs to be real institutional reform to help the families succeed. And that hasn't happened yet.
We heard four, in my view, idiot guys who said stuff. But truthfully, isn't it actually some of the hardest pressures and criticisms from other women? Women who stay home, for example, who feel that women who work, that there's like underlying, like, there's some nastiness. I mean, I've seen this.
I mean, there can be nastiness, but I will tell you, anybody who has been at home with a child knows that that can be a lot harder than going to work every day. I mean, you know, it's a huge, huge thing to tell somebody that they can do it all, because it is very, very difficult. As Andrew said, you need assistance, and that assistance needs to come from the family, from the community, from your job.
It's not always a choice. You got to make the money. You got to pay the mortgage. You got to pay the tuition.
What did Hillary Clinton say about baking cookies? What did they say about Ann Romney when staying home? I mean, these are constant conversations that take place in public. But the thing about the governor saying it that's so striking is when he said it, he said, I'm going to get emails. He knew he shouldn't have done it. When Tudor's a little bit different. He's not an elected official. He doesn't have the same constituencies to worry about, as wrong as it is. But when you're an elected official, you come out and say these types of things, it's very different than even Megyn Kelly. By the way, does Megyn Kelly live in New Jersey? Because she could run for Senate over there now, too.
Smart subject for her to take on. All right, coming up next here, we're going to be talking about the Empire State and specifically a host of political issues. When you see some of these poll numbers, I guarantee you'll do a double take, including how many New Yorkers want their daughters to intern in the state capitol. Forget about staying home and working. How about interning in Albany? We're going to have that answer and more after this.